all of these flowers today, and I thought I'd bring you along so that you can see the before and after. So these flowers, little backstory really quick, these flowers that are massive and just starting to bloom, by the way, it's August, and they're just starting to bloom. They were a part of the seed tape that I got, and the seed tape is actually a really cool idea. I really liked the concept of it. I liked the application of it with a couple of the flowers, but these bad boys, I don't even remember what they're called, but they were only supposed to get up to, I want to say 3 feet tall. These are 12-inch high raised beds. I'm 5'2". It's still way taller than me. These are way bigger than 3 feet. And they're crowding out all of the tomatoes and the squash that are behind them. Now, the squash has gotten to a point where it's probably done, and I just need to take the loss for the season. I've got successions going elsewhere, but I now can't get to my tomatoes. So there are pear tomatoes, they're like this big, and then there are a bunch of slicing tomatoes in the back here behind this, and you can't see them. I can't see what's happening with them to prune it very well. The tomatoes are kind of starting to take over a little bit. I can't really see what's going on, and these things are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they have started to bloom, and they're fine. I mean, they're not ugly or anything. They're pretty, but they're not pretty enough for me to leave them there when I can't get to my tomatoes and the rest of the stuff. So we're going to get in there and get to chopping, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully we'll actually be able to get in there and see behind the crazy. Hi, Leo. My dog came to say hi. Hold on one second. Leo, come here. Leo, come here. Say hi. Say hi. Say hi, Leo. Hi. Oh, bless you. Bless you, dog. So I got some lovely snippers. I got some wire to start pulling things back, because there's some amaranth over here too that is falling into the bed, and so I'm going to attach it to the corn so that it stays propped up a little better, and then I'm going to get in there. It is really freaking hot today, so I'm going to try to do as much as I can before I just sweat to death, but I'm just going to get some gloves on and get started. All right, so this is like a gardener's nightmare, right? Like, you really want things to grow well, and when they don't grow well, you get sad, but then when they grow well and you have to chop them down, it's even worse. But this is too much, y'all. Like, look at this. It was supposed to be this tall at maturity, and it's like, I don't know. There's lots of other stuff in this bed too. I think these are cosmos that never got off the ground because they were being shadowed out by this. And the other thing is, I can't put this in a vase either. So I don't know a lot about flowers, but I have a ton of flowers that I have been cutting and harvesting and making little bouquets out of, and I've had flowers on my shelf in my kitchen for basically the whole summer now, which has been awesome. But these ones, I tried to cut them and stick them in a vase, and they immediately wilted. Like, they are not vase flowers at all, and it totally might have been something that I did wrong. User error is a real thing, but if I can't even do that, then what's the point, you know? Oh my gosh. This thing is like This thing is as thick as a sunflower. It's insane. Look at this. Look at how thick this is. This is insane. Look. That's the part I just cut off, and it's as tall as I am. All right. This is all going to go into the compost pile. And then there are a bunch of cosmos right here that are absolutely beautiful. There's a couple of different colors in that pack too. I thought they were all like this pale pinkish purple, but there's some dark purple in here too, which has been fun. But yeah, dude, I don't know. I'm not a fan of this flower. I'm going to save. See, there's another tall honking one. And again, it's just starting to bloom. Like, come on, dude. It's August. You've been growing forever. And it's just starting to bloom. It's crazy. So I am just going to cut these down. I'm not going to disturb the soil or anything around them because there's lots of plants in here that I do want to save. The cosmos, I'm just going to shove over and try to anchor them away so that I can get more room. But they're pretty spindly. You know, they're not blocking much sun. They're pretty spindly. Airy. I don't know what you call them. But there's a lot of other plants in here, so I can't just go in and rip the whole thing out. But dear me, I was not expecting this. This is what I get when I just buy a packet because it looks pretty. There are some tomatoes in here where unfortunately I'm just going to have to cut them off, and I'm cutting off flowers and stuff too. But this is because I couldn't get to them to be pruning them. And honestly, if I knew these were going to get this big, then I would have done this earlier. But you don't know what you don't know. So that just happens sometimes. All right, this Cosmo is just too much in the way right now. So right back behind this is some amaranth. And amaranth is so pretty. So pretty. I love it. But it got shaded out too. I was like, I've grown amaranth before several times now. And it's really highly dependent on the what kind of soil you have growing. You have it growing in. And so I was like, oh, it's good soil. There's no way that it's going to be small. And it just got shaded out so bad by that flower in front of it. I thought it was going to be able to compete, and it just couldn't. So, I don't know, is what it is. Okay, I'm cutting off a bunch of these tomatoes because we still have plenty of growing time left in our season, but these are big slicers. So I would like them to focus on the fruit that's already growing and not worry about setting new fruit that will never mature. We usually get our first frost first week of October, but the closer we get to that, obviously, the slower things are going to grow because they have less daylight. But look at how giant that is, dude. Like, think of how much water and nutrition and sunlight these plants are stealing from my tomatoes. So I also deal with this English ivy. It's all up in my yard and all of my beds everywhere. And I just can't get rid of it, and I've kind of given up. But it has started to wrap around it, and it's like getting up to here. With some of it, it's crazy. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that thing is huge. It's like a tree, dude. No wonder I couldn't see anything back there. Thank goodness this is easy to cut. Like, it's like thick like a sunflower, but it's not hard to snip, which is good. So you can already see a lot better what's actually going on in there. And I'm just going to keep going down here. These zinnias over here, I'm definitely going to keep a few of the flowers and dry them for seed for next year, because these are really great. And the hummingbirds love these things. My goodness. I've seen so many hummingbirds around here. But I'm definitely going to keep those for next year. But I'm just going to be a lot more strategic about where I place them. So these ones are looking absolutely gorgeous. They're getting all kinds of battered around by that. You know what? All right. Cosmos I can shove back. That's fine. And then these ones, yeah, so the zinnias are also insanely tall. And then I have this is a marigold, by the way. It's a marigold. And if I leave it upright, it's a good 5 feet tall. But it's like flopping over because it was trying to get to the sun. So part of this is to take my lovely garden wire and start trying to push these all together so that the tomatoes can breathe a little bit. So, I don't know. Some of these are working pretty well with me, and then some of them are just not. It is what it is. Gotten a ton of zinnias off of these. And the birds love them. But again, these tomatoes are just like falling over because I can't get to them. So, I don't know. Is what it is. All right. So, it's already a lot more open. I can see what's happening, which is really nice. And look at my sunflowers. Aren't they pretty? They're so pretty. They are about to fall over though. So I am going to get in there and try to tie them up to what's happening behind them. All right. So these bad boys are also pretty tall, but what's happened is they're starting to get really heavy because of all the flowers, which is great, but they're starting to fall over a little bit. There's a gigantic sunflower right back here. This one is like 12 feet tall. It is very sturdy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach these to that sunflower to hopefully hold them up a little better. And hopefully that'll do the trick if I can actually hold them while I'm tying. Do the other way since I'm over here. So I swear some years, like some things grow incredibly, incredibly well. And then sometimes they just don't. And it's a combination of like water and where they're placed and the sun and the soil and all these different things, right? Okay. Looks a little clunky, but you know, I need to be able to see my tomatoes back there. I'm gonna do one more and get the rest of those sunflowers propped up a little better. So that variety of sunflower, I believe that's the Black Russian. And that one is incredibly huge. So I don't usually gigantic sunflowers, but that's generally because I have to start them in pots. And when you start them in pots, you of course have to then transplant them out into the garden. And sunflowers don't generally like that. You mess with their root a little bit and it stunts their growth, which is fine. I end up getting sunflowers that are about this size. They're still pretty big. They're about 6 feet tall. But that's generally what I'm used to getting. And this giant sunflower over here, this one, that is absolutely massive, and it's starting to bloom. Look at how beautiful that is. That one is absolutely gorgeous. I can't even see if it's in the shot or not. All right, it's absolutely beautiful. But that is the largest sunflower I've ever grown. Because that one I had in a gigantic pot, and so when I transplanted it, just because I think I ran out of pots, when I transplanted it, it did not get as much transplant shock as the rest of them. So it was fine. It was fine, and it got really big. So these other sunflowers I have in here, this one is the Velvet Queen. And these ones aren't huge to begin with. But honestly, this was a perfect spot for them because they ended up being about as tall as the tomatoes are right now. And they're not big and stocky enough to shade anything out. So this one, planting this one inside my garden bed was totally fine. That really tall one was far enough away that it didn't get in the way of anything. And those other ones honestly weren't bad in size. They're still a good 6-7 feet tall. It's just that they had started to move this way and lean so far that they were starting to take things over too. So these zinnias, I'm definitely going to grow next year. These are absolutely beautiful. And they've been consistently blooming since, oh goodness, probably middle of June. So they've been blooming for a while now. And the tomatoes behind them are doing really great. These are all cherry varieties. And I wonder if I can get in there close enough for you to see. There are a ton of red cherries in there that are ripe and ready to pick. And so I'm going to get in there and I'll probably pick those later in the evening once it cools down. But there are a bunch. But this bed has all of my slicer tomatoes in it, and I can't really see them very well, unfortunately. So I almost missed. I've harvested one Cherokee purple, and I almost missed it because I can barely see what's happening behind there. And so I got really worried the other day, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make the big decision, and I'm going to get in there and start propping these things back. There's a yellow jacket. If it gets closer to me, I'm going to run. So fair warning. And so there's a cherry on this side. You can see a few cherry tomatoes, but there's a Cherokee purple here in the middle. And I believe there's a Paul Robeson over here. And I almost missed, oh, you can kind of see some tomatoes back there. I almost missed the big slicer, and it was pretty big. It was like this big. It was pretty big, and it was absolutely delicious. But it was like on the verge. If I had waited another day or two, it probably would have been overripe. But I couldn't see it, so that kind of spooked me a little bit. That one spooked me a little bit, so I needed to get out here and do this, even though it's like brutally hot right now. The last thing I'm gonna do is get in here, and this amaranth is, I think it's just a red amaranth. I don't really remember the name of it. Purple something. I don't know, something. It's absolutely gorgeous. And this one actually didn't get that big, which I was super impressed with. But the tomatoes have started to grow into it, and they're starting to pull it down. So what I'm going to do is get in here, and I'm just going to attach it to the corn stalks. So that it stays up. So underneath here, get the rest of those cosmos out of the way. So underneath here, there are some squash, which I know that one over there is not going to do anything this season. I've kind of given up on that one. This one, however, I think is the early prolific. It has produced neither of those things, not early or prolifically or at all, because I had so much stuff that was shading it out that it just started to get some sun. So I have gotten in here and made sure it's gotten enough water and started to cut away things so that it could get enough sun. And it is a little bit bigger right now than my other successions of squash. And so I'm really hoping that it's going to not stunt it so much that I might actually get something out of it. So that's my hope. I don't know how that works with squash, whether it's like a pepper where if it's stunted, it's stunted and you're probably not going to get anything out of it. There's a little lizard over here I'm trying to get over. Oh, it ran away. It ran away. It was starting to get close and then it ran away. So I don't know how that works with squash. So I do, like I said, I do have some successions going. I have one, I think just regular green zucchini over there in the bed, and it's about that size. And then I have a couple of others in some grow bags that I started a couple weeks after that. And those ones should definitely produce. I am not lacking in squash by any means. I have this gigantic plant right here. This is actually 3 plants. And this is 3 plants, and I'm harvesting probably 5 or 6 a week at this point, which has been more than enough for me. I've been able to chop some up and use it in dinners. I've been able to shred and make zucchini bread. I've been able to freeze some already. I'm probably not going to have the stock that I did last year just based on that. But as long as the others start to come through and produce, I should have enough to freeze some shredded zucchini. I like having frozen shredded zucchini in the freezer over the winter because my kids absolutely love zucchini bread, and it's a nice, easy thing that I can make for them for a snack or whatever. And so I do like having a lot of that in my freezer, and I am out from last year. So I do need to start putting some up so that I'll have some going into this next winter. But with just those plants, it's definitely not enough to do that. So I'm glad I have some successions going. But honestly, I'm impressed that I even got these. Out of all of the squash that I had, I did not think that these were going to be the ones that did anything, because in the past, my scallop squash have been the ones that are the first that are completely decimated by squash bugs and the vine borer. So I'm honestly shocked that these even look this good. I'm honestly shocked with a lot of the squash this year. So I wanted to come down here. I'm almost done, I think, for the day. But a couple of things I do need to make note of. So this is dill. I harvested a bunch of it and I made some pickles, but I also put some in a freezer bag so that I could make some pickles coming up because I do have some cucumbers coming. But this is all seed, and I am going to come out here with a little baggie and put that in some seed in a baggie so I can save that. Hi, Leo. Hi again. Hi again, buddy. What are you doing? You better not. You better not be looking at that bee. Better leave that bee alone. Yeah, you're a good boy. I know. I would never hurt the bee, Mom. All right, so this is the chaos of this bed. So I just need to remember, I'm going to make a note in my journal for next year. I went over this a little bit in a live I did last week, but I don't really use my garden journal for its like intended purposes, you know, this is when I seeded things and this is when I did. I usually just make notes of what worked and what didn't from the previous year. And on that note, I am going to make sure that next year I only plant my winter vining squash in the corners of the bed and then I trail them out so that I know what's even going on. Because what happened in this bed is I overplanted because I'm always afraid of the vine borer and squash bugs. And so I always overplant because I'm afraid that they're going to totally decimate my crops. And I'm only going to end up getting like a third of what I planted anyway. So I overplanted and then everything grew. And then it wasn't a bad squash bug year at all. I probably picked off like maybe 30 squash bugs over the course of like 6 weeks. And I haven't seen much of anything happening since, which I'm certainly not complaining. Certainly not complaining. It's been a great year for pests, but that means that everything is doing really well. And I had a volunteer in there too, which I think was a giant pumpkin. So there's a lot happening in there and I can't really see what's what. So I have 3 pumpkins that are pretty big in here. One is right there. Let's see if I can, yeah, here it is. One is right there and it's pretty big right now. And it's still got a ways to go. I think the biggest one is right there. There's another one hiding in there somewhere. Of those, I think at least one of them is a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin. And I think the other one is the Connecticut field pumpkin. I think. Because what has happened is there's so much in this bed and now I'm having a hard time like even getting to it that I can't really tell, like all the vines are folding in on each other. And I'm having a really hard time tracing back what's going on. What up, Polar Champ? It's been a bit. How's it going? And yeah, I got an insane jungle going on. It's crazy. But I also have, so I have like 4 different types of pumpkins in here. And I have a couple, I have a butternut squash, I have a butternut squash, I have a gourd somewhere in there, and then I also have some baby pumpkins. And so what has happened is I can't really see what's happening. I can't see what's going on. It will get easier as the season goes on because the initial leaves will start to die back and I'll be able to see what's happening more. But until then, I kind of just don't know what's happening. And so next year, for sure, I think I'm going to put them, there are 4 raised beds here. I think I'm just going to put 1 in each of the corners of the raised beds and That way I'll be able to keep it a little more separate. I can still put my baby pumpkins on the back, because that seems to work out really well. They grew up the trellis on their own. I didn't even have to go and train them up the trellis. So that worked out pretty good. Again, I can't really get to the baby pumpkins right now, but they're fine staying on the vine. I don't have to support them or give them any extra anything back there. And they'll be fine until it's time to start ripping things out in the fall. So there's my garden, y'all. It's going crazy. It's going absolutely nuts. It's getting really hot. I'm gonna go inside now. I think I'm gonna come out a little later and harvest some tomatoes, but I think I think I'm done for today. But it was awesome hanging out with you. I hope I see you next time. Bye, friends. What's up, babe?